Peace and love. My name is Jewel. Good morning. Today we're going to do another soul session, so let's get started. I hope you had a beautiful week and that you're enjoying your weekend so far and getting prepared for the next week. How are you feeling? How have things been going for you? How's your healing coming along? Some incense going. It just helps me clear the energy and shift things up a bit. Thank you, Spirit, for your healing, for your vision, for your guidance. Thank you, angels, for your protection. Thank you, ancestors, for your courage. Thank you, Most High, for the gift of life. Thank you, friends, for journeying with me as we move forward on our healing. Spirit, what messages do you have for us today as we continue on our healing journey, as we move forward with our healing? What messages do you have for us today? What words of encouragement do you have for us? Words of healing, words of enlightenment do you have? Thank you. Thank you, Spirit. Change. When the ego finally sees the utter madness of trying to control everything, you come to a sacred crossroads in your own evolution. So Spirit is saying that we're in a period of change. We're in a period of transition. And we won't be able to control it. The divine source. Help me know that all my deepest needs will be met. Let me trust that you have a plan and the right actions will come. You are my source for all. All right. So right there, we know that we're going through a period of change. And Spirit is saying that we won't necessarily be able to control all the movements of it. But we are changing, and that the Most High and our Spirit team, they're with us. And they're orchestrating things in a way that you'll be able to move forward. Give me a few more messages, Spirit, as we move into the week. Problems resolved. Lapis. Mental strength. Hematite. Compassion. Zebra stone. Courage. Aquamarine. This kind of makes me think about last reading, and we're still going through this change. We're still moving out of environments. We're still moving out of situations that are harmful to us. And Spirit is still telling us that we need courage. But also the message today is, unfortunately, we won't be able to control it, right? There are a lot of things in life that we feel like we can control, but we really can't. And sometimes we can accomplish more by allowing Spirit to handle things and surrendering the control and saying that I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the step-by-step instructions, but I realize that something in my life is changing. I realize the importance of the change. I feel it in my spirit, so I know that it's happening, even though I can't see all the steps in front of me. Spirit, could you continue to guide me? And that's when we ask for help from our spirit guides, when we're not able to see all those steps. Because sometimes it's not important to see all the steps, because things might happen along the way as we move forward. And so when we start to plan out the steps brick by brick and, A, B, C, D, we don't leave ourselves open to have new opportunities and new insights. We don't allow those new insights to come into our lives. We're not even open to them. We're not available to them. Because even when we try to execute control, it's a method of putting up columns or putting up barriers. And we're saying, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way I see it. And this is the way I'm going to do it. And in some instances that could be right. But on the life journey, on the spiritual journey, that's not how we move forward, and that's not how we heal, right? So we always have to have a sense of flexibility about us where we're able to move with spirit, where we're able to move with those new insights, where we're able to move with that new inspiration or those new things that come to us, right? And we are able to sense them and feel them too. So, and this is a lessening of the ego, because we've talked about this before, how the ego deals with structure, and the ego deals with control, and the ego deals with things have to be this way because I said they had to be this way, or I can't understand anything else other than this way, not realizing that our spiritual guides and the Most High, they have a better understanding. I talk about this all the time, a better understanding of everything pretty much. And their creativity is endless, right? Their vision is endless, and how they can maneuver and work you through different things, right? Things that might seem complicated and things that might seem out of reach. But we have to realize that we can't do it all. And sometimes it's not even about our spirit team. Sometimes it's about asking people around us for help too, for assistance when we feel or when we're seeing that we're not able to get past certain blockages, right? First, we have to realize that we are being blocked. I think that's the beginnings of it all. But the surrendering is releasing of the ego, releasing of that dominant self, that self that we gravitate towards because the world will cause us to be in that mindset all the time and to stand in that way all the time because that's the way it's set up. But in reality, spiritual work in the spiritual realm operates differently. It's a gentle energy. Not that it's not hardcore, because it can be hardcore and it can be, it can be serious. It can take us through some changes and we can learn some deep lessons. And, it could be a rough space. But initially, really the energy is a gentle energy. It's more of an energy of listening. Peacefulness is the energy of listening with your ears, but listening with your heart, right? And these are kind of things that are done in a still space. It's not a whole bunch of movement and a whole bunch of ruckus happening around us. I mean, it can be, but that's why meditation is important, or going into a quiet space where you can think, or stepping outside if you have to where you can think, because those spiritual insights come to us in a safe, quiet space, right? And so Spirit is saying that we are in a period of change, but some of us might not feel like we're changing because we're not controlling the steps too. And that's the thing. Sometimes the change is put in place by something you maybe have done. Maybe you did it months ago. Maybe you did it a year ago. Who knows, Maybe the changes were put in place, but right now you're in a space where you're not seeing any evidence of the change. No evidence whatsoever. Spirit is saying that's okay, because just because we don't see the change doesn't mean it's not happening, right? Things are happening around us all the time. Our guides are moving things out of our way. Our ancestors are moving obstacles out of our way. If we are working, if we're asking them for that, if we're acknowledging them and giving thanks to them for that. But sometimes change is silent. Sometimes change, there are many pieces that go into the change. It's complicated, right? But that doesn't mean we have to rack our brains trying to figure out a way to get out of situations. That just means that we say, Spirit, I'm in a difficult situation. And I've said this before. I'm in a difficult situation. I don't see my way out of it. Could you please illuminate the steps for me, and could you please guide me on the way forward, right? And so that's where we become humble, when we realize that we don't have all the answers, when we realize we don't have the blueprint is not in front of us, the map is not in front of us with the directions laid out. It's not like that. Life is not like that. And so we ask for help from others. And Spirit is saying that's how we move forward, right? And so Lapis here, problems are already resolved. Whatever it is in your life that is difficult, whatever it is that you can't see your way through or you can't see your way forward, the ancestor says, they say it's already done. The problem is already resolved. No, you might not be able to see the ending. No, you might not be able to see the solution, but best believe they see the solution and they already interpret the ending, right? So the ending is near. And so we kind of have to have faith in that, especially when we're in the thick of something that's heavy on us like bricks, or something that's, harmful to our spirits, things that we talked about last week, those situations that we're in that are harmful, those relationships, those work environments, those family environments, those friendship circles, all those things that could be detrimental to our spirit, and issues that can arise from being in those certain circumstances. Spirit is saying that we see where you are, we see the situation that you're in, we see that it's harmful, and best, believe in us. Believe in yourself too. Believe in your ability to move forward and your ability to understand what's going on around you. And by doing that, also have an understanding that it has to be an end, right? It's always a beginning and it's always an end. Unless you don't make the steps to put that ending in place and to move towards that ending. I mean, we talked about that last week when we were talking about laying that last puzzle piece down. If you don't lay the last puzzle piece down, then that's a whole different story. That's the recreation of the same story again. But once you decide that you want to lay that puzzle piece down, things start to shift. Your energy starts to shift. Your ideas start to shift. Your mindset and your direction automatically moves in another way. And you start looking in a different direction, right? And so even by doing that energetically, you're initiating change in your environment, right? And so Spirit is saying that the problems are resolved. And the lapis works on the third eye and the throat chakra. So these are things that we don't see necessarily, but we have to be able to intuit, right? And these are things that we might not say, okay, so and so, we've got the info, everything's done, you're good to go. It doesn't work like that. It's kind of like feeling it in your heart, feeling it in your mind, intuiting it with your third eye that, okay, I've decided what I wanted. I've put myself in a different direction. I've turned my eye this way. And so I know that things are going to start moving eventually, right? But we realize that it takes time. Spirit is saying that even though you're going through this, they realize that it's taken a serious amount of mental strength, and it's still required. It's no time to give up now, because we're just in the process where we realize that we're in the wrong place, or that we're in the wrong environment, and that we need to move forward. And so it takes a lot of mental strength to move forward out of negative situations, because a lot of people want to keep you there. There'll be a lot of questions. There'll be a lot of concerns. A lot of it's going to be false. But there'll be a lot of people who want to hold you back from making decisions that are beneficial for your life. And this really pertains to whatever it could be in your life. It could be something big. It could be something small, right? Because we're always in a period of change. And we should always be moving forward and growing and learning in that way and healing in that way. It never stops, right? So it takes a lot of mental strength to even be in the situation where you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with, right? But it takes even more mental strength to come up with the realization that something's not right, and then even more mental strength to move out of it, right? So fortify the mind. Like a brick, like a rock, like a mountain. That's what you need to be. And that's what Spirit is saying. You need to stand tall and firm like a mountain when you're making decisions for your life. I always have like three ideas of people, like a water bottle, or it could be just any type of vessel, Like some people, if you kick the vessel, it'll just fly like miles away. Some people, if you kick the vessel, it'll move just a little bit. And some people, if you kick it, it won't move at all. And so we want to be that last person. We want to work towards that energy where we're standing in our own power, where we are heavily grounded in our earth energy. Our feet are firmly planted on the ground. And what that means is we know who we are, we know our purpose, and we won't stand for anything other than that, right? And it's not being inflexible, because we always want to be flexible because spirit works with us when we're flexible, right? We don't want our egos to be involved. I'm not talking about planning yourself with your ego. That's a no, that's a no-no. That's how we got here in the first place. I'm talking about planning yourself with spirit, planning yourself with your truth, with your spiritual truth, and putting your feet firmly on the ground and saying, I'm not going to budge from this spot. I'm not going to budge from this idea. I might listen to what you have to say, but I'm going to be cautious about what you have to say, because first I have to discern whether you're good for me or whether you're bad for me, whether your words are helpful or whether they're harmful, whether you bring, are you toxic to me or do you bring love? Are you speaking to me from a place of love? And that's what we talked about last week, where we want to be able to intuit whether people are speaking to us from a place of love or a place of hatred. Because a person can live with you and a person could be with you, but they could secretly hate you, right? And that's something to really be aware of. You have to be able to know if people love you or if people really want to do harm to you, And so when we start to make choices and we start to want to move out of situations, people can sense that. They can sense that this person is leaving, or they can sense that something is shifting. And then it's like attack mode where, wait a minute, you're going to have to get as strong as you can in your body, as strong as you can in your spiritual beliefs, as strong as you can in your mind. And you might have to pull on extra sources like your ancestors, say, Spirit come, ancestors come and fortify me as I move forward through this situation, right? Because in life, we have to stay strong, and we have to stay sensitive too. It's a balancing act, right? Because the intuition is granted through the sensitivity. That soft knowing, that quiet knowing is granted through the sensitivity, but we still need to be fortified, right, with the energy of spirit to move forward. Zebra stone and the root chakra is saying compassion. Even though we're moving out of situations, even though we are seeing that we might be in wrong environments, we still have compassion for others. We still have compassion for those who we've been around. We still have compassion with those who might hinder our growth. We still have compassion for people that we meet along the path that might not be the best for us. Do we continue, dialing in those situations? No. Do we have compassion and love for these people? Yes. Because we always want to be in a place where we're able to wish happiness and healing on everybody that we meet. Even if our situation wasn't, if we didn't come together and things didn't work out, we still want to wish compassion on those people as they move forward in their journey, And in that way, we are hoping to cut cords in an amicable way, where there's no animosity. A lot of times it's not really the case, but spiritually we still want to be in a place to do that. But also have compassion for yourself, because a lot of times when we've gotten into these situations, it's because we've made some difficult choices or we've gone down a difficult road, right? And so there's a tendency to say, why did I do that? Why did I make this choice? How did I end up here? Why am I going through this? What did I do wrong? Why didn't I listen? Why didn't I do this? Why? And so when we do that, it's harmful. We start to harm ourselves in a way, because we can say negative things to ourselves. That's very harmful. And so we start to harm ourselves in a way, and what that does is it lessens our courage. It dampens this mental strength that we need in order to move forward. So Spirit is saying that as we're going through these changes, As we're moving through these difficult spaces, we need to continue to have compassion with who we are. We still need to have compassion as we, even more so, because we realize that we've been in heavy spots. We've been in difficult spots in dealing with negative situations, maybe even negative people. By that alone, those people have drained and pulled on our energy, and they've probably lessened our self-esteem. And so this is a point where we're growing, we're healing, we're learning, and we need to be compassionate. We need to have compassion for ourselves and compassion for the situation too. And Spirit is saying, trust. Trust the divine source. Trust the Creator as you move forward, knowing that you won't be left behind. You won't be left in a situation that will deplete you completely. Now you will be left if you don't make the steps to move forward. But if you actively make the steps and you actively say that I'm ready to move forward and I'm ready to start a new journey and I'm ready to start a new path forward, I see my way forward, I want to see my way forward, the Most High is ready for that. Because we always en route to a spiritual, maybe place, that's not the word, but a spiritual direction. And anytime we do that, that's even more important because we're getting closer to source. We're getting closer to co-creating with the Most High, co-creating with the universe, as some people say. And so by doing that alone, by trusting alone, we're opening ourselves up. We're opening ourselves up to new energy. This came out too, worth. You have been worthy to belong to love all along, without any need to improve. In fact, you are love itself. So feeling worthy, feeling like you're worthy of beautiful things in your life, feeling like you're worthy of having a wonderful relationship, wonderful friends, a wonderful job, a career, a beautiful spiritual life. We all are worthy of these things, but we have to not only know that, we have to feel it, and we have to be strong in that. And that's when that compassion comes in. When we start to have compassion for ourselves, right? When we start to have compassion for ourselves, that's when those feelings of self-worth start to come up. When you start to say, wait a minute, I deserve better than this. I deserve better than how you're treating me. I deserve better than how you're talking to me right now, right? Because sometimes when we're bogged down in certain situations, we don't realize that people are talking to us any kind of way. People are treating us any kind of way. People are saying things nasty behind our backs and wishing ill, things on us behind our backs. Why they do it? Many different reasons why people do those type of things. One day we'll talk about that. Many different reasons. But can we dwell on why people do what they do? Can we dwell on why people wish ill on us? Can we dwell on why people want to keep us in negative spaces? We really can't dwell on it. They want us to dwell on those situations. People like that. They want us to dwell on it. They want us to stay in those spaces where we are not only fearful, but we're regretful and we're guilty. That's the word. People like to instill that type of guilt, and those type of emotions will keep you stuck. They want you to feel guilty. They want you to wonder what's going to happen when you go. You're pretty much leaving a helpless person. This person won't act like they're helpless, but when you're ready to leave, different scenarios that'll keep you stuck, right? And so we have to realize that we are worthy, and they're worthy too, right? Because not only are we worthy of something good, we wish good things for them as well. And so if we're not coming together and if we're not creating a certain type of energy together where we can grow and where we can heal and where we can move forward, together, then we have to part ways. But we still want the other person to grow and to heal, and it's their choice to do that. But the more we concern ourselves with what they do, and more we concern ourselves and how they feel about our growth and our healing, the harder it will be for us to move forward. And more than anything, we probably won't move forward, right? Spirit is saying, listening to look peacefully, quietly, and wait for the signs. Wait for the signs from your spirit team, from the Most High. They're there. They're subtle, right? they're not loud and booming. It's not that type of energy. It's more like a whisper. It's more like a feeling. It's, like I said, it's a sweetness, it's a gentleness. Sometimes it's like a sharpness too, like, it's time to go, it's time to move, it's just, get your shit, let's roll. So sometimes it's like that too, but it still requires those ears where you can kind of pick up those things. You can pick it up from different things that people say in the environment. You might hear a song. That might be a way that your guides speak to you. You might just have a feeling in your stomach. We talked about that last time. Like I said, it could be a conversation with someone. It could be something that you hear on the TV. It could be outside, seeing the movements in nature. I get a lot of information and a lot of signs from the messages and the sounds that birds make. That's always been important for me. And it could be their movements in nature, how they move. But a lot of times it's the rhythm of their tweets, the rhythm of what their messages that they're giving. And so that's important for me on my spiritual work. I found that out. So we all have ways of interpreting messages from the Most High, interpreting messages from our guides. Give me one moment. Sorry about that. I have a teenage son, and I could tell that he was about to start getting hype on the talking with his friends. So yeah, so you just have to figure out, what ways. How do you receive messages? How are my guides speaking to me? Because they're speaking to us. Let's believe. How are they speaking to me? And am I in a place to hear them? Am I in a place to intuit those messages? Let's get a few more cards. So it's just good to know that we're changing. It's good to know that we're changing, that we're moving forward. We're still moving forward. We're not out of it yet. We're not out of it yet. But Spirit is saying that the problems are resolved. So the hard work is done. The hardest part of it, I believe, is over with. The hardest part, I believe, is over with. And so now we just have to keep our minds in check. Continue to love on ourselves. Continue to care for ourselves. Continue to ask for that guidance. Continue to trust in Source, or trust in the Most High energy. Trust in our ancestors that they want us to move forward, like we talked about last time. And trust in ourselves. Action. Openness. And focus. So kind of what we were saying earlier too, that you'll know when it's time for action. And this is also saying it's time for action, because look at those clouds, that storm cloud, and look at those waves just crashing in. This is like turbulence. This is a turbulent situation. So we realize that this is where we are, right? So this is where we are, some of us. This is where we are. We're in turbulent situations with dark clouds and crashing waves, and we might not be able to see our way out of it, because those clouds, you wouldn't really be able to see your way past this. And if you were in these waters, you would be shook up, You would be clinging on for dear life if you were in these waters. So some of us can be in situations like this now, where we're clinging on for dear life, where we can't see our ways through. But Spirit is saying, even in that situation, even with that difficulty of not being able to see your way through, of holding on for dear life, of just being out there, just like you're led astray, that you still have to be open. This is, to me, this is a receptive energy too, this moon card. This is a feminine energy. And if you're masculine watching this, you still have to be this energy, because we all embody masculine and feminine. And sometimes we need to bring those things up more or less depending upon the circumstances. And this is saying that the situation that you're in, it's a lot of action happening, right? We're going through the thick of it. We're in the rough spot of it, right? But even in that, you're required to be receptive. And that goes back earlier to be able to have the compassion for yourself, right? And that you have to be able to listen for the signs. Because like I said earlier, we intuit in a soft space. We intuit in a quiet space, right? We have to have our minds clear. We have to have our hearts open, right? It's a level of openness that comes to when we need to receive messages. So even when we're in difficult spots, we need to be able to have the flexibility enough, and we talked about that earlier, that flexibility of having the fortified mind, that high level mental strength, but you also need to have the softness to stay open, right? So it's a balancing act that you're doing, you know? And so this is where the messages are, in this openness, in this openness. And how do we get there? We trust in spirit. We trust in ourselves. We trust in our direction forward. We lay the intention down. To set an intention is a powerful thing. Spirit, I plan on moving forward. I don't know the steps, but I know that I'm heading in a different direction. That's setting an intention. It doesn't have to be a ritual that goes in place with this. It just has to say, you say it to yourself. You don't say it to yourself in a way that's like, You say it into a way to yourself where you believe it. And you speak it to yourself, and you speak it out loud. You can go outside, you can speak it to the trees. You can speak it to, your ancestral connection. You can speak it. You speak it into life. That's what an intention is. It's something that you speak into being. And you don't speak it into being and voila. It doesn't work that way. You speak it into being, and by doing that, you start pushing and pulling and like working like that in tandem with spirit to make those things happen, right? And so there are periods of action, because this is also the action that will require for you to move forward too, along with the turbulence. These are two different things I'm talking about now. There's a period of action and there's a period of inaction. That's what these two things represent. This is life. This is how we move through life. This is how we accomplish tasks on this earthly and in the spiritual plane. This is how we realize our potential, by action and inaction. It's a flexibility. It's a balancing. It's the duo. It's the most important thing. And so we have to be able to go into those periods of action, even when there are things happening all around us that might distract us from it, right? And this is the last one. I could just read these all day. Spirit is saying, get into an energy of receiving. Every day it becomes easier to receive the highest divine plan and to trust my inner guidance. So what happens is, when we've been in situations where things have been detrimental to us, where there hasn't been much growth and there hasn't been much healing, where we've talked down to ourselves, where we've wondered how did I get here? Those things tend to harm us, right? And so what happens is we close ourselves up and we become like this. We become like this, where it's an energy you can't penetrate it. You can't penetrate this energy. And so we want to start to, like a petal, like a flower petal, we want to start opening ourselves up like this. It goes into that flower we talked about earlier. We want to start opening ourselves up like this so that we can receive the sunlight, right? And so from the sunlight, we're talking about the messages from Spirit. We're talking about the healing that we receive from the Most High. And we have to be in an open state to receive those things. We can't just be balled up and closed up. And so when you've gone through trauma and when you've gone through difficult situations, when you've dealt with difficult people, when you've had to maneuver and put yourself in a certain type of box or a certain type of shape or whatever to conform to something, something specific, you don't put yourself in a space of receiving, because receiving goes along with that openness that I was talking about. It goes along with that feminine energy, that receptive energy. It's a energy of knowing. It's maybe I don't have the gift now, but we do have the gift now, right? Because we're living, right? So we do have the gift of life, and I think that's something that we need to realize as well, that even if we don't have a penny to our name, we have the gift of life, and Spirit wants us to know that's the most important gift of all, right? So we have that. But there are many things to receive. There are many blessings to receive throughout the day. And if we're closed up and if we don't acknowledge ourselves for who we are, if we don't acknowledge that we're in rough circumstances, if we're not willing to put ourselves out of those situations, we're not going to be in a space to receive. Receiving is a gentle energy. It's a powerful energy. You know, it's a surrendering. You have to surrender to receive. You have to trust to receive. You have to trust in the Most High to receive. You have to believe that you might not receive today. Well, we will receive every day, like I said, but might not receive exactly what you want. But every day we're receiving something. Every day we're receiving a sign. Every day we're receiving the gift of life, like I said. Every day the ancestors are putting things there for us to receive and to understand. The Most High is putting things there for us to receive and to understand. Whether we hear it, whether we interpret it is another question. You know, that's the question. And that depends upon us. How do we listen? How do we listen? Do we listen with our egos? You know, if you listen with your ego, you're not hearing much. You're hearing what everybody else is saying, but you're not necessarily hearing what Spirit is saying, right? So how are we listening to Spirit? How are we listening to ourselves? Do we have compassion? Are we compassionate? You know, do we have compassion for ourselves? I think that's a big key to it all. How do we feel about ourselves? How much do we love ourselves? When you start to love yourself fully, you start to be able to put yourself in a place to receive. And not a greedy receiving. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about receiving gifts and receiving this, tangible things, monetary things, receiving. Because some people take, read. They receive in certain types of ways. And that's not the type of receiving I'm talking about. I'm talking about that spiritual receiving that blesses us and gives us that strength and, that spiritual strength to move forward. That's the type of receiving that I'm talking about. That's the receiving that takes you here into the next journey. Because in life, we work here on the physical plane, but we also have to work on our spiritual work as well. We have to do our spiritual work too, because we're working in two places at once. We're working here, and we're working towards the ascension, right? They both are equally important. One leads to the other. And when we get to the next journey, we continue to work in whatever way the Most High has us work, right? So it's always continuous. But we want to remain open. We want to remain in a space where we're receiving. And we want to continue to be compassionate with ourselves and with others, no matter whatever the circumstances. No matter what the circumstances are, we still wish people well. We still send them love and healing, right? Because in that way, we send it back to ourselves. So, all right, well, this was a good one. And then I guess, we'll see where we are next week. We're still changing, like I said earlier. We're still working on loving ourselves and being truthful to who we are and opening ourselves up to receive, the best gifts. But we're also thankful for what we do have. Even though we don't have it all laid out, even though we don't know the full plan, even though, like I said, we can't see the full blueprint, we're still thankful for what we do have. And we're still thankful for even the difficult parts of it, right? That's the hard part. But even thankful for the difficult parts, because through those difficult parts, we come out on the other side changed and ready to move forward spiritually. All right. Take care.